Hello there, welcome to Development Corner from Hockenheim, where almost all the developments we're seeing, all the new bits that the teams are bringing to the cars before the summer break, is to manage the airflow, the turbulent airflow coming off the front wheels, the front wheel wake turbulence. Now, just to remind you, we did have a rule change at the beginning of this year. It changed the front wings, and that meant that suddenly there was a lot of turbulent air coming off the car that previously had been managed, that this year they suddenly had to figure out what to do with. And so we've had a development going on throughout the year, but the big changes at Mercedes have been around this side pod area. Mercedes, really, the world champions, had two things to do here. Number one was to cure the overheating problems that they had I'll just pause it there, cure the overheating problems that they had in Austria, and if they could do it at the same time, make the car go faster. Kill two birds with one stone, and they have managed it. First of all, we'll do the bits to make the car go faster. Have a look at these boomerang rings. Now, they look sort of like boomerangs laid on their side, and what they do is just condition the airflow above and below the floor that is affected by that front wheel turbulence. So air comes spiraling off this front wheel and damages this very sensitive area of the car. And what this boomerang wing does, in fact, what all of these winglets do in this area is just govern that, just to make sure it doesn't get underneath the car, which pretty much destroys the aerodynamics. And we're seeing this Mercedes boomerang repeated, copied if you like, amongst many teams throughout the pit lane. So that's new on the Mercedes. There's also a little bit new here, and this side pod turning vanes here are new on the Mercedes as well. Towards the back of the Mercedes, the engine cover has got a little bit bigger as well. We can have a look at it on this side view. It's a little bit bigger around here, and that allows the air coming through the side pods just to accelerate through the car and then get blown out of the car quicker, and that helps with the cooling. Now, Mercedes can go back, if it's cooler like today, they can go back to the narrower, tighter bodywork if they want, because it is quicker on paper than the bigger bodywork, but this should help. Here you can see a better view of that boomerang. You see it just looks like a flattened, laid down boomerang like there. So it's all more complicated. All of this is new in the Mercedes area, and then it's just to condition the air to make sure that the spiraling air off the front is either going over and at the top of the floor, or is stop it going under the floor like that. There's a little change to the Mercedes front wing, but it's only in the end plate area around here. Nothing much to be seen there, but they are bringing development in that area. Now, there are some vents around the side of the halo. We've seen these before on the Mercedes, but it just does mean that they are a little bit enlarged. And to help the cooling as well, they put an extra radiator around sort of this area of the car. It's a central radiator, but the radiators in this point are actually the same as in Austria, where the car overheated. They've just put another radiator up there, which seems to have helped. There's a rear wing change on the Mercedes as well. We've seen a couple of changes to the rear wing end plate. Now, this is all about a rule change same time, which stopped the teams from putting in these little vents that used to be up here on the rear wing, and that used to govern the vortices off the rear wing. So air kind of boils off that leading edge of the rear wing, and it creates drag. And they're not allowed those little vents anymore, so what the teams are doing are finding amazing, ingenious ways with all of these holes and all of these little strakes in here just to manage the dirty, turbulent air that slows the car down off the rear wing end plate. So that's a nice new development from Mercedes as well. We've got quite a lot on the Racing Point. There's more to come. There's a new front wing to come for Hungary, but there's some quite good stuff here. The mirrors particularly, so they're joining the Crazy Mirror Club, our Racing Point. They're pretty much just air conditioners, so in terms of telling the airflow where to go. They're aerodynamic guiding vanes, essentially, but they also do bits involving, they have to have a mirror in there because that's the purpose of them. All right, so let's go on the side of the Racing Point. Now, this is essentially a copy of the Red Bull, and it's fine. There's no shame in that. The teams are allowed to copy each other. But if you look at the side, it's much more gently inclined. It's this kind of angle here. That's the Red Bull copy. So they've gone much tighter to the bodywork, and that's a lovely little development. That is really cutting edge stuff from Racing Point. That's nice stuff. There you go. There's the boomerang as well, and more of these bits around here, just like we were saying on the Mercedes. So that's good stuff on the Racing Point. They've also got nice new bodywork at the back, Just go swooping, just highlight that here. And a very nice shot here, exactly what they were trying to do, Mercedes were trying to do with the rear wing, just to manage that dirty air coming off. This is all for that same thing on the rear wing end plate. So nice stuff here. We can actually see, this is a lovely shot we saw. An aerodynamicist, they put this high-vis paint on the cars, and then they get a camera in and they can see what the air is doing. And yeah, he's got a good shot there. I think the aero department will be happy with that. Not too much new on the Red Bull, but for the hot conditions, we have seen them unusually open up the top engine cover of their car. In past times, Adrian Newey's been very good on packaging. The Renault engine hasn't needed as much cooling as maybe the Honda has, but now what it means is that they can actually come out. The Honda engine does need a little bit more cooling, so they've put this little vent where hot air can come out. I think it's closed up for today. It's a little bit cooler, so I don't think they should need it on Saturday and Sunday here in Hockenheim. But apart from that, not much new on the Red Bull. Lots new on the Williams as they kind of try to catch up with everybody else. But in a floor development and the rear wing as well, we can see it's very easy to spot because they've got these new long strakes, which are very much in fashion in the floor. That, again, is just to make sure that the floor is as sealed as possible. You've just got air running very quickly under the floor and being worked by the diffuser, trying to just to bleed as much, or rather prevent any dirty air getting under there. So that is the new Williams floor. Nice stuff from them, even though they've had a few bits break on it. And also that's the boomerang on the Williams as well. Goes up there, that's the side, and these are some more strakes in exactly the same area as we saw on the Mercedes. Just a couple of things to tell you about the Toro Rosso. We've got a nice before and after. I like before and after. That's before. This is the area we're looking at in the barge boards. You see, that looks essentially not very complicated, and this is a lovely little development. Lots of detail here. This is good stuff on the Toro Rosso. This is the car in Hockenheim, and this was the car in previous races. Toro Rosso also have a new floor, and you can see it here with all the strakes that we were talking about going in there, and that's a close-up of that barge board area. And finally, we can talk about Kevin Magnussen, because he is running some new upgrades on the Haas, while Romain Grosjean goes back to the Melbourne spec. The wind tunnel and the CFD, computational fluid dynamics program, say should be slower. But the thing about what's happening to the Haas is that the downforce that they're adding might be better, so says the computer, but it's inconsistent. It's not allowing the drivers to feel it, and they don't feel confident with the car. And so that's why Romain Grosjean can be quicker with a car 3 steps back in Melbourne spec, than Kevin Magnussen with the brand new car. And one of the new things on the Haas, if I just pause it at the right moment, there you go, perfect, is the rear wing end plate. And these are absolutely beautiful. Maybe if I just do a little highlight here. We haven't seen this kind of detail with the strakes that used to be at the top of the rear wing end plate, now moved down to where we saw those cutout areas around other cars like the Mercedes. So, plenty of developments for Development Corner. I'm sure there'll be more after the summer break.